In a matter of speaking, yes.
Yes.
Ooh, maniacal laugh.
Welcome to the Bat Lessons Book Club. I'm Brian,
I'm Alex.
and today we're going to look at Absolute Batman issue number 7. We have just finished the Zoo series, and we're going into a new set.
Yeah, Absolute Zero, they're calling it.
Yes. I didn't know if you wanted to reveal that right away, because there is kind of a cool little prologue that turns the page into the title.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a meta point. I believe I've heard that this is going to be a 2-issue wham bam. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so right now it's still Scott Snyder doing the writing, but
Mhm.
we have Marcos Martin doing the art. Who, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right. It might be Marcos Martin, but am I imagining a little accent on the I? Did I invent that, or is that actually on the page?
No, there's a little, I mean, it's really, really small for me to see, but it does look like there's a little accente goo or whatever you call that thing.
Yeah.
On the eye. Yeah, it's on the big page too.
Yeah. So I think that's Martin. We're gonna go with Martin. And I believe he's doing these 2 Mr. Freeze issues, and then we're gonna go back to Nick Dragotta.
Cool. I dig it.
Any spoiler-free thoughts before we jump on in?
Oh man, you've hit all the spoilers already.
I'm sorry.
No, I think it's really cool. I was actually really curious how they were going to roll out different villains and how it was going to work in like this world,
Yeah.
because so far, like we've talked about in like the Bat Lesson show, how in Batman they have magic, but it's
Sure.
not common.
Yeah.
And I was curious if they were going to bring that kind of stuff in, or if they were going to focus on the science angle of it.
Right.
And so far, no magic, but this is a classic villain.
Indeed. We'll get into it. So yeah, I can't talk about this issue without talking about the art. In so many ways, for me, this is like totally my jam, and in other ways, I was a little tripped up by it. He's in a blizzard on the front page. Did you follow that it's supposed to be in a blizzard throughout the issue?
Oh, throughout the whole issue? No.
Yes.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, so when they're in the alley, there's like sort of 2 timelines kind of in parallel that are happening. It's one is we've got Bruce and his friends, the Rogues Gallery in the main universe, in Crime Alley, and they're saying goodbye to their friend, right? And very clearly in the art we see the snow. But then there's also sort of like a present day where Bruce is like walking around the city and swinging around the city and chasing down a lead. In the dialogue, in the caption boxes, he mentions that there's like a short break in the snow. So he's talking about how it's meant to be a blizzard, but like there's no snow on the ground or anything like that. It really kind of like tripped me up a little bit. I was like, the dialogue didn't even kind of match with the art for me. But the cover here, we're in a blizzard.
Yeah. That's a good call. Actually, I really didn't pick up on that stuff when I was reading it. It did say like blizzard, and then there was a cut in the blizzard, and he was visible. But like that's the only snow reference that I really picked up on during the issue itself.
Yeah, that's all the more I'll bag on the art. I'll sing its praises the rest of the time. This is very much my bag in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I dig it.
So you wanted to talk about this sort of like the smash cut at the beginning.
Yes. Did you read the prologue?
I did.
Okay. So there's really short. It says prologue, but it's like not really anything.
Yeah.
It just shows like a kid in a Jeep going through Tanzania, talking to his dad, and they're talking about going to visit a glacier and how there's so much life in this glacier. And it's so amazing. And then the dude turns to this kid and he's like, what's wrong, Victor? And it's like, Victor freeze. Okay.
Yeah.
Turn the page. Absolute zero.
Yes.
Which confirms that, to those who aren't like super science literate, absolute zero is like extremely cold, like the coldest possible, where like atoms fall apart. And so kind of clever because they're going off of like Mr. Freeze as in cold, but then also like absolute Batman.
Right.
Smash cut.
And
absolute zero.
In the zero, we've got the eyes. I don't know if you caught this. This is the eyes of the child.
Yes, I caught that.
So same color, same size, same shape, and all that kind of stuff. But newly, there's a little bit of blood coming out the side. Like
yes, I thought that was really interesting too.
Yes.
Mhm.
They don't really explain that, but it kind of comes together later in the issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got Bruce and the Rogues Gallery in Crime Alley, and they're saying goodbye to their friend, Matches Malone. Are you familiar with Matches Malone?
Um, I know the name Malone. Like,
Yeah,
is it possibly Bruce Wayne's like he's got that one name that he uses,
it
his
is.
like
This
this
is it.
guy's name. Is
Matches
it
Malone. So
Malone?
every time he
Okay,
goes undercover, um, in sort of modern Batman stories, his alias is always Matches Malone.
got it.
So that goes back to a Denny O'Neil story in the 70s, late 70s,
Mhm.
where there was a like, someone who was tied up in organized crime. He
Mhm.
was a bad guy basically. And I believe, I correct me if I apologize, caveat emptor.
Yeah.
The gist of that story is he's talking to a bunch of these organized crime folks, and they're turning, and so he's gonna get help from the inside to catch the rest of the big fish, right? One of the guys that's helping him is Matches Malone. Unfortunately, Matches Malone passes, and Bruce, or Batman, I guess, assumes his identities to finish out the plot. And so basically, ever since then, when he needs to be a gangster, to be a person on the street, to be whatever, Matches Malone is his alter ego. So we're introducing the absolute version of Matches. Um, and I thought it was interesting they decided to sort of come up with a little story for how he got his name.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you, the whole first page,
Mm.
I thought they were under the impression that Batman had died, because like the end of the
Oh,
last issue was like
sure, sure,
pretty
sure, sure.
crazy,
Yeah,
and they had just seen him like jump out of a plane, and as far as we know, hadn't heard from him yet.
yeah,
And my mind was racing, like, what are they gonna do with this? How are they? As soon as they see Batman again, these guys are gonna be like, "What the heck, Bruce? Like, you're
yeah,
still alive?" I don't know. I didn't know what to make of all of it,
yeah.
and then they said Matches Malone. I was like, oh, they're talking about someone else, and
Yeah.
then Bruce shows up.
Yeah, and the story behind Matches is that apparently they used to play a game where they'd lay out a matchbook, and they'd throw lit matches at it to try to catch the book on fire, and whoever was the one that caught the whole book on fire got to put someone else in the group up to something, right? So it's basically
Hmm.
like, a double dog dare or whatever. If
Yeah,
if you were put up to it, you had to do it. Matches would win, and then he would put himself up to the thing, right?
yeah.
So he's kind of a crazy guy.
Hmm.
And yeah, Bruce kind of comes out of the woodwork while they're talking about Matches. They're trying to
Hmm.
pay their respects. And they were like, "Who even saw him last time?" And he's like, "I saw Matches Malone last time." And we cut to a meeting that they had on the bridge. There's a little exposition here where I think they call it you've got the book in front of you. It's like Batman Combat Log or something like that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Batman Combat Journal.
It's so stupid. I hate that sort of thing. Like, Dear Diary, I'm gonna title it
Yeah,
Batman Combat Journal. Just like whatever the most maximally incriminating, but vaguely
yeah. But
badass
I
sounding.
just would he write things down like this? That's one of the things that I wonder is
I
like
don't know.
yeah.
It's I guess it's easy. It's better than him talking to himself, but
He could just be thinking.
yes. And so the exposition we get here is that Bruce is very interested in the Ark still. They're still building
Hmm.
Arkham, even after Black Mask has been taken down.
Hmm.
And the city is kind of on edge. They've instated a 10 p.m. Curfew, and the police are sort of ramping up a police state, right?
Hmm.
Where they have these like police zeppelins. I think they call them blimps, but that are patrolling at night and like sweeping people up off the street.
Yeah,
And
pretty classic.
the Zeppelins,
Yeah.
yeah, that goes all the way back to we I think we read the issue with the first Zeppelins, didn't we?
Oh gosh, I don't know.
Okay,
Maybe.
I think we might have read one of the stories in that issue, but not the Zeppelin story.
Mm.
But that goes all the way back to the very beginning. That's a Golden Age thing. He wants to get into the construction crew that's working on Arkham, that's building the Ark, and so he
Hmm.
reaches out to his childhood friend Matches, who specializes in fake IDs. And so the reason that he wants to get in contact with Matches is to get a fake ID so that he can, use that to get into the Ark. But we come to find out that Matches did not do that, right? He requested the fake ID, didn't hear from for 2 weeks, comes and meets Bruce on the bridge, and he's like, "Hey, I've been working for them."
Yeah, Bruce is pretty upset about that.
Yes.
Especially because like you said, everyone's on edge. The city's in under martial law. He thinks
Yeah.
that there's something like really nuts going on over at Arc M. And and another thing about Matches I thought was interesting was when they were memorializing him,
Yeah.
they were talking about how rough his past was, how
Yeah.
he was on the up and up, and then he was on the down and down, and
Right.
his first stint at Blackgate Prison,
Right.
because he'd apparently been in and out of prison a few times. So
Yeah.
he's like the actual criminal
Yes.
of that group of friends, and he's specializes in fake IDs,
Indeed.
of all things.
Matches is like, "Hey, I've got some stuff to show you," and he reaches in his pocket, and it looks like he's getting out his phone maybe to give to Bruce,
Mm-hmm.
and like basically instantly, it's kind of hilarious how fast it happens. Like, starts bleeding from every orifice and every pore.
Yeah. I didn't even know if you were going to show this picture because
Yeah.
it's pretty gruesome.
It's intense.
Yeah, it turns into Swiss cheese.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. And it is like it's immediate cuz they say pretty quickly that they figure out what it was, and it was probably that it was like it was on his phone. And so when you look back through, you see like he pulls
Gotcha.
his phone out and then like almost immediately falls apart,
Ah,
and then his phone is what hits the ground and breaks.
I
But
hadn't
then
inferred that. That makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. And then but then another thing that's kind of interesting is that
Yeah.
Alfred, or he calls him Pennyworth. Pennyworth
Yeah.
had patched him up. He gave him a cast, and
Yes,
had
and
said like,
insisted that it should be for medical purposes only. Yes.
"Yes, you must rest," right? And Bruce is basically like, "Yeah, as soon as that loser left, I like decked it out." And so this happens, and he
Yeah.
turns right away, like, "I'm being attacked," and then he takes off.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's so funny. Like, the art here is hilarious. His
Yeah,
cast is like a bat gadget.
yeah.
Pulls it on a random person. So then he's chasing down this lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some video that is on the phone of people in cells. Turns out Arkham's not just being built, like it's already housing people, and like
Mm-hmm.
who and why. And I cannot believe Scott Snyder's done interviews and said like, "Oh, I've been working on this for like 6 months. These scripts are like they're way out ahead of time." So like incredibly timely, talking about like disappearing people to random gulags. Like, I know I could not be more prescient of the moment. And I'll just leave it at that. But
Yeah.
one of the things that's on the phone, do you not want to talk about that? I can cut that out if you don't
No.
want. Okay.
No. It's just, yeah, it's unfortunate. It's like, what the fuck?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And Scott Snyder is like Nostradamus over here, sort of picking it out, calling it out ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. And then one thing that I
Yeah.
also thought was interesting is he says that the cells are windowless titanium cells.
Yeah.
So like they're not going anywhere. Like you
No,
can't scratch through that. There's no Shawshank Redemption ending on this place,
No, not at all. And one of the things that another thing on the phone was a photo that was taken of a bunch of names. Langstrom,
Right.
who's Man-Bat,
Mm-hmm.
Isley, who's
Mm-hmm.
Poison Ivy, Strange, Hugo Strange.
Hugo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so these are all like mad scientist, doctor villains, and the last name is Freeze. Traces that name back to a company that's, what's the name of the company? You've got it in front of you. It's like
V-Core.
V-Core. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Batman's like, "Hey, that's in Gotham. This Freeze guy has this company, V-Core. I'm gonna figure out what the heck's going on." And so he goes out after curfew, and the police come after him. Juxtaposition here of me being very frustrated with the art. We've got this like amazing, like swooping shot where he's flying over the city, and supposedly we're in the middle of a blizzard. This is where we get the caption box that's like, "Oh, brief reprieve in the snow," and like there's not a single snowflake anywhere. There's no snow built up at all. But then we get this incredible, this is so very much my shit here. I love this. Where these police drones are shooting at him, kind of from one panel through to another. This is something that Marcus Martin is doing a bunch in this issue is he's sort of doing these compositions where you have art that is like self-contained inside of a panel, but is interacting with another one.
Yeah.
Um, it's just a cool action shot.
It is really cool. The previous shot I do think is really cool, which
Yeah.
it's hard to show, so I'll like maybe do one of these
Sure,
things.
sure.
But like the panels are at the bottom. Ugh, this is hard. The panels are
Yes.
like that, but the shot, oh, upside down. The shot is like that
Yes.
of him flying, which I thought that was a pretty clever artistic style to do.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I
That's
like
what I'm
that
saying
quite
is
a
that
bit.
he's doing, especially with the like page layout and the framing, is super creative. And I think
Yeah.
you know, as well, when they're in the crime alley and they're doing the silhouettes of all of the characters, and yet you can still tell who they are.
Mm-hmm.
It's very moody, you know, very very evocative and very like geometric, and like I don't know how to describe it other than like it gels well with my brain. I like the style
Yeah.
of art. I could take or leave some of the sort of like psychedelic colors, but
Oh, I
um,
love the colors.
really,
Oh yeah, because it harkens back to some of the Golden Age stuff we've done, where the
mm,
way they represented the night was still like
sure,
very bright,
yeah, it's true.
because like that's how good his eyes are, and
Mm-hmm.
then if everything's black, you can't see anything, and like I think I've witnessed this myself, like using the night view camera thing
Mm-hmm,
on the
mm-hmm.
phone,
Yeah,
and how some colors like really pull out while the
yeah,
others subdue, and it's got these really cool neon effects, and so I like the like blast of neon all over,
sure,
instead of just like blackness or just even like the dark blue sky. They're going with like neon pink, you know.
yeah. Alfred is talking to him on the cell phone while he's sort of like evading the police, trying to get it to VCore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what the gist of the exposition is, but like, you know, Alfred's like, "Are you resting your arm?" And
Yeah,
he's like, "Yeah, totally. I'm just listening to the
yeah.
radio."
While he's like being shot at.
Yes.
Yeah, and Alfred's like, "What's all that noise?"
Yeah.
And Bruce is like, "Shut up. What's going on?"
And then there's this panel you wanted to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, so one important story element that
Yeah.
is in that conversation,
Yes.
which I think is also worth noting, that is like the most suave we've seen Alfred in the whole series so far.
Mm.
He's like pretty put together in this picture, which
Yeah.
like he's got the suit and like this beard and everything. Like he could be entering like a competition. Um, but he's saying, yeah, the thing that killed Matches, it's not a virus,
Oh, that's
it's
right.
not
Yeah,
a bioweapon, it's a bacterium,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
which is really interesting.
Yes.
Which we call in the future when he starts to figure things out. And he says, but there's no record of it, not
Right.
even at the WHO. We don't know what this thing is.
Yeah.
And so as the chase continues, this next shot's pretty cool because you see him using his like bat thumb, his wing thumb things to grab people, to throw them into each other. He's climbing up a wall the same way that a bat climbs up the wall as
Yeah.
they grab with their little thumb things,
Yes.
which is really cool. It harkens back to the like issue where he's talking about the bridge and how much he loves
Yeah.
bats and all that stuff, and he's just continuing to use the bat theme
Yeah.
in the actual like biological aspect of it, which is
Yeah.
pretty fascinating.
Really cool to see another artist sort of take on that while still sort of like having the same through line of like
Yeah,
the thematic elements of what makes Absolute Batman.
yeah.
We cut back to Crime Alley where they're talking, and this is another example of where I just love this art, where we have multiple panels that are the top panel here and the bottom panel here go together. That is like a single piece of art that is cut up and split apart.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's a good call.
Yes. So he does this a lot, Marcos Martin, where he's sort of got panels interacting with each other. And it just, for whatever reason, when my brain sees that with the color and the shape and the rhythm of it, it when Bruce is talking, right? He's large, he's imposing, he's solitary. When the Rogues Gallery is talking to them, it's cold and it's blue and they're as a group, right? And so it's he's telling with the page layout and with the sort of like rhythm, the vertical rhythm, the sort of like the oppositional, the confrontation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's absolutely what's happening. Is they're like, "Hey man, what the hell? Why didn't you tell us you were Batman?
Yeah.
You know what? what's going on? You know, last time we saw you, you were jumping out of a helicopter. We thought you were dead, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and you were hanging out with us for the last years. You know, you were studying with me. You know, Riddler says you were studying with me. You know, was that because of Batman? And Harvey's like, you were, you know, learning about the law with me. Was that because of Batman? We've got Croc saying you were learning how to fight with me. Is that because of Batman?
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce is like, leave me alone, basically. Um, he basically says, you know, what happened to Matches, I don't want to happen to you. You know,
Mm.
I don't want to tell you more because when I have people help me, when people get close, they get dead.
Which is true.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
but
It's a
there,
very like Spider-Man sort of,
yeah.
or even like James Bond, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like way to view the character.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. But I also like there's the wordplay in here too,
mm,
because they're like, well, one thing that I thought was funny is they were like, hey, the last time we saw you, you were looking all Nosferatu
yes,
over there, which I thought
yeah.
was a pretty fun reference. But he's saying there's nothing left to say about this. You are apart from this, as in separate.
Mm-mm.
And then they go through and say like, you learned from me this, you learned from me that, like da 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 da. And the last person says, funny, because it looks like we are all a part
Mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm,
what
mm-hmm.
Batman became,
Yeah,
kind of. And I thought that was some fun wordplay that is the conflict you're talking about.
yeah.
And now that you've pointed out this art, I am
Mm,
noticing something that his cast is on the left here.
mm-hmm.
Well, it's on the right as you face it or whatever, but no, it's on the left. So you're looking
At his
behind him.
back, I
You're
think.
looking
Yeah,
at his back,
yeah.
yeah, because it's his left arm that's got
Mm-hmm,
the
mm-hmm.
cast. And I think because of the way it splits, you're kind of like looking through him at the people he's talking
Oh, you might
to,
be. Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. And then the very next panel on the next page,
Mm.
he's coming at you,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
that same torso, like bottom section that you
Yeah,
see
yeah,
at the
yeah.
bottom panel there, but in a different context, which is another clever little art thing that I did not catch at all on the other reads.
Yeah. Then Batman is able to get past all of the police, right? And he's able to
Mm-hmm.
make it to V Core, V Pro,
VCore.
V
Yep,
Core. I'm
VCore.
sorry, V Pro is an Intel remote management. So it's just I'm gonna struggle with that from now until eternity. And he basically says, you know, I'm gonna pretend I'm coming to inspect the electricity because I guess the company is taking like enough electricity to power like 10 city blocks like
Mm-hmm.
continuously. Like it's an ungodly amount of power. And so his cover story is he's gonna come check it out. Um, and it's just like a really cool shot. The desk is a V. I don't know if you caught that.
Oh, no, I didn't catch that. I noticed it was a massive empty room
Yes.
and like a pretty interesting shaped desk, but the V never even occurred to me at all.
Yes. And I guess their lobby's like a gargantuan, you know, cavern, and they've got a bunch of like frozen specimen that they're
Yeah, I
showing
was
off.
trying to understand if that was like a screen or if that was like a actual like
I think this is meant to be like a
frozen.
frozen fish tank.
Okay.
Which, like, I don't know, if you think about, it's not uncommon for companies to have like ridiculous displays inside their like Cloudflare, the CDN.
Okay.
In their lobby, they have a wall with like 200 lava lamps or something like that.
Lava lamps. Yeah. If
Yeah.
there's like the security thing, it's cool.
Well, yeah, the idea is that like random numbers are kind of impossible. And so what they do is they have like webcams pointed at the lava lamps and then they hash the picture because the lava lamps are truly random. And
Yeah.
that's how they get their random. I don't know if that's actually true, but their lobby is like
It's a cool story.
it's a cool story and it's part of their
Yeah.
technology stack or whatever is.
Yeah.
But I think it's a similar idea. It's like a flex, right? So when you come
Yeah.
in and you see this company, it's like, oh, we free stuff apparently. And there's a mammoth and a saber tooth, and they describe it later as a beetle, but it looks like a scarab to me.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a nod to the Billfinger scarab, but in my head canon it is. I've decided.
That's fun. I didn't think about that either.
A guy comes out and is like, "Hey, can I help you?" And Bruce is, yeah, I'm here to like look at electricity, and the dude's like, "Oh, that's totally understandable. That's totally fine, Mister." Right, and he asks him for a name, and this is the moment where you're supposed to think, "Oh, he's gonna say that he's Matches Malone," because you know that's the history is that
Mm-hmm.
you know Matches Malone passes away.
Mm-hmm.
Bruce assumes his identity, and that's just his
Mm-hmm.
cover name from here on out. But that's not what he does.
Yeah. Pennyworth,
Pennyworth. Yeah. What
which
did you
is
think about
also
that?
pretty interesting. Well, kind of interesting because the great thing about Matches Malone as a cover is like he's a dead guy,
He's
so
dead.
like
Yeah, it doesn't exist
yeah,
anymore.
no, they can't find him.
Yeah.
Whereas like Pennyworth,
That's a
like
person.
Alfred, that's a person. He could get in trouble.
I assume that's almost certainly going to come back to bite us. Uh, we get the vibe that
Mm-hmm.
the guy who comes out is playing along, right? That like he's saying, "Oh, everything's okay, totally normal for you to check out the electricity," but
Mm-hmm.
realizes very quickly that Bruce is not who he says he is, and something's awry, right? It's probably because he says he's Pennyworth, or maybe not, but like that's the thing that I'm guessing is that like we're gonna find out next issue that the cover name was a problem, and so we're gonna get like an origin story for Matches Malone. It's because
Oh, interesting.
he needs better
That's pretty
names.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read it differently
Mm,
because he comes out and he's acting really nice and you
yeah.
can kind of it's excerpts from the Batman Journal or whatever the thing's
Sure.
called. And which also is a little bit of a spoiler that he
Mm,
survives
sure.
because it's in the journal.
Yeah.
But it's in the journal and
Yeah.
he's saying like, "Oh, you've got him talking. Oh, he seems really lonely.
Yeah.
Engage with him and stuff like that." So like I was believing all of the stuff that apparently Bruce was believing.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, he's an innocent dude. He wants to talk to me." And so he's
Yeah.
like drumming up this conversation. But yeah, he pushes this button
Yeah.
which on the repeat read, I
Yeah.
see what you're talking about
Yes.
where right away he was like, "Oh, something's not right here." And dink.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then he starts to like reveal some pretty big stuff.
Right. So Bruce knows because of this research he did that there is a guy named Victor Fries who owned the company or whatever, and he asks this person who comes out and he says, "Is are Victor and what's the name of the woman?
Nora.
Yeah, sorry." He comes out and he asks, are Victor and Nora still in charge of the company? Or
Are they
overseeing.
overseeing?
Yes, it's so silly. And we get this art, and he's like, and as in a matter of speaking, yes.
Yes.
Ooh, maniacal laugh.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right.
and we get this reveal where it's not just Nora who's frozen; it's Victor and Nora who are frozen this time.
Yeah. Interestingly though, because the historical canon we have is it's Victor Fries and his wife,
Mhm.
and he everything that motivates him is
Right, Nora's
saving
the
his
one who's
wife.
frozen, and Victor's not.
Right.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's the son
Yes.
that is apparently Mr. Freeze, and both of his parents are frozen. So there's like the generational jump that I haven't
Right.
seen before, at least.
Yeah, he says, I'm Victor Jr. and these are my parents.
Mm-hmm.
And another Marcos Martin like panel banger. Like I just love this art where he's showing these sort of like ice crack panels where some cases it's flashbacks to his history and some parts where it's a totally unrelated piece of history and others where it's his face. We get a flashback to the Absolute Zero splash page where he's got the
Mm-hmm.
bleeding eye or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the gist is that he was frozen as a child because he had some sort of incurable illness. And eventually he was freed because they had a cure, right? And Bruce is like, "Oh yeah, they were right?" And Victor's like, "Yeah, they were, except it was excruciating and it transformed me and I hated it. I it wasn't like I went to sleep and I woke up like all this time later and I didn't remember anything. It's like I felt every moment of it, right?"
Yeah.
So it adds this sort of like sinister element where when his parents were dying, they froze themselves, but like, yeah, they're actually in purgatory,
pain.
I guess,
Yeah.
in excruciating constant pain. And so it's kind of this like, horror turn we get.
Yeah. And it does, I mean, makes me ask questions of like if he comes out kind of crazy after a pretty short stint in the ice, what's it
Yeah.
going to be like for them after like
Oh, sure.
ages
Yeah.
in the ice if they ever do make it out?
Yeah. And while Freeze Jr., Victor Jr., is monologuing, Bruce is like looking around trying to get clues, and he spots a bacterium on the table, and it's like, oh snap, they got
Mm-hmm.
whatever killed Matches out of the ice.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a a Paleolithic bacteria disease or whatever.
Yeah, he says maybe the question isn't where the bacterium came
Yes.
from, but when.
So presumably that's going to be a big threat here. Is like, can he unleash this bioweapon? And we get a reveal of what he looks like. Victor like transforms.
Yeah, I mean, presumably when he hit that button, it started this.
Yeah,
I guess. I don't. My best guess.
sure.
And yeah, he's some sort of biological frozen thing, and he grabs onto Bruce's face, and he's freezing his face.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know. So the question is like, is that science? Is that magic? Like, what's going on
Sure. Yeah, I
here?
think in my mind, like Mr. Freeze is normally kind of like more sci-fi than supernatural. Although
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of supernatural going on where it's like a pseudoscience element. Um, he's got technology that
Mm-hmm.
keeps him alive, etc. And he's sort of technology based, where he's got like sort of freeze guns and gadgets and things, and
Mm-hmm.
um, although like the idea that you need to stay cold to stay alive, right, is also kind of like fantastical. And it seems like here they're taking more of a horror angle where it is less science, although like the origin is it was a cryo research or whatever.
Yeah,
And potentially more like, yeah, biological body horror,
like
um
werewolfish.
supernatural, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, or the Hulk, I suppose.
Sure, yeah, it could be like the Hulk.
Interesting, really
Yeah,
interesting. Curious to see what happens next. So like you were saying, usually Mr. Freeze is like he can't handle the heat,
sure,
so
yeah,
he's got like the suit that keeps him cold to survive.
exactly.
And in this case, he seemed to be like totally
Totally
fine. He
chill,
pushed a
yeah.
button, and then a chill, good one. He hits the button, and then he
Transformed.
transforms.
Yeah, does a
So
Dr. Jekyll and
yeah,
Mr. Hyde sort of thing.
yeah, pretty interesting. But yeah, this is a pretty. I mean, the art style is pretty gruesome here
Yeah.
and there in this issue.
Yeah, no, it definitely gets like a body horror vibe.
Yeah,
Um,
grotesque.
can't say I'm mad at it. Like I do have the sort of like continuity note that I was a little frustrated with, it. Like, if we're supposed to be in a blizzard, it wasn't very blizzard like. Um, but otherwise, I love this art. Like Marcos Martin could stay around, and I would be super happy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm interested to see where it goes. If I recall correctly, this is only supposed to be a couple issues, so I don't know if that just means 2 issues and then Nick Dragotta comes back and we stay with Mr. Freeze, but I think it's very likely that we're gonna sort of wrap up the story, or at least put it on hold before we like swap off to another thread. And so yeah, very interested to see where it goes. I'm glad to see that even after the zoo is sort of wrapped, that there's enough sort of there that meat on the bone, right? Like I don't feel like
Yeah.
oh it's wrapped up. Why am I still here? So
Oh yeah, I think they've left the right amount of cliffhangers or mystery boxes or whatever that I want to see what happens. I want to know what the answers are,
totally,
um, especially like with his friends. So I think that's going to be like kind of a long character development line
yeah,
to see how they get that chemistry figured out, if they're not friends anymore because of this,
yeah,
or what. And then I'm also curious to see what other villains show up and how.
yeah, 100%. Thanks for stopping by the Bat Lessons Book Club, our new channel. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe, tell your friends. And yeah, if you're not familiar with us, if this is your first time, we also have the Bat Lessons History channel. So check out the description. See our other stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Talk about the history. You can see where all this stuff came from. You can catch all the like cross references that we're seeing in Absolute Batman here.
Yeah.
It's pretty good stuff. Check it out.